Hello, everybody. Today is March 4th. This is the meeting of the Murrieta City Council is now called to order. Madam City Clerk, would you please take roll?
Councilmember DeForest.
Here.
Councilmember Stone.
Here.
Councilmember Holliday.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle.
Here.
Mayor Warren.
Here.
Let the record reflect all members are present.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, are there any public comments for closed session?
We do not have any public comments.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, will you please go over the closed session agenda? And we already did public comment, so we don't have to do that part. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As listed on the agenda, the City Council will meet on CS1, Conference with Legal Counsel, Anticipated Litigation. The City Council will conduct a closed session pursuant to Government Code Sections 549, 56.9D2 because there is a significant exposure to litigation in 2 cases.
Thank you very much. With that, we're going to go into recess into closed session, and we'll reconvene at 6 p.m. for the regular meeting. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm now calling the 6 p.m. regular City Council meeting to order. Madam City Attorney.
The council met in closed session on 2 items of anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2. The City Council was updated, no reportable action.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, would you please call roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember DeForest.
Here.
Sorry.
Councilmember Stone.
Here.
Councilmember Holliday.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle.
Here.
Mayor Warren.
I am here.
Let the record reflect that all members are present.
It is my honor now to ask my son and my granddaughter to please come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Kyle and Emma, if you'll come to that right there.
Will you please place your right hand over your heart and repeat after us? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Oops, sorry. Please stay standing. I would like to ask that Shane Academian from Calvary Murrieta Church please come forward with our invocation. Get your hand.
Let's bow our heads. Father, we thank you for everyone here as you gather us together. We thank you for your sovereign reign. Lead us, guide us with counsel and wisdom. Thank you for calling us and for the opportunity to walk in these callings. We also thank you for your boundless love and your amazing grace. God, we ask for wisdom to govern and lead well. We ask for vision to take care of our people's needs. We ask for thirst and love for justice and righteousness. And we ask for your perfect peace for which you give to those whose eyes are fixed on you. Lord, I pray for this meeting. Go before us and lead us together by your very Holy Spirit. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Please be seated. Madam City Clerk, would we like to start with presentation of National Charity League?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, with us we have Jen Malloy and Amy Edgeworth. And grade level advisors are here to present.
Come with me.
Good evening. So good to see you. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here. I am Jennifer Malloy. This is Amy Edgeworth and Iria Lund. We are the grade level advisors for the National Charity League Murrieta Temecula chapter, class of 2025. And it is our honor to present the girls' senior project. They opted to write a children's book. We have a lovely video to show you for the rest of the girls that were unable to be here. Madam City Clerk, we'd love to show that video now.
And we're so honored to present to you our senior project book, How I Feel Strong. While we are so bummed that we could not be here tonight, we're a busy group of seniors doing really great things within our community, like I work in educator, I'm part of different sports in my school, and I'm applying for different jobs. I do different sports and part of advisory council and mock trial.
I'm in sports, ASB, and I do different sports and I work.
Thank you so much for allowing us to present this, and we hope you enjoy. This is how I feel strong.
Thank you to our lovely seniors. They are amazing, busy ladies. Because of the book being now available, we thought that the best place for it to be would be in the city of Murrieta's library. We have 5 copies to present to the city on behalf of our chapter. Iria, if she may approach the dais.
Thank you. Oh, wow, look at this. It's cool. National Charity League is extraordinary program. It teaches young girls how to become young, wonderful women, and how to give back, and how to stay strong, and how to believe in yourselves. And this is remarkable. I can't wait to read it to my granddaughter. And I admire each one of you. I know I had a chance to speak to the group not too long ago. And I'm just so very proud of you, and what an honor for Murrieta to receive copies for our library. Thank you so very much. From all of us, we congratulate you on the good things you are doing for this community. Thank you. Yes, maybe get a picture. Staff, let's go. Everybody go down. Everybody gets to hold the book. I get to unwrap it. Oh, thank you for making it easy. Yes, thank you. There we go. Unwrap. Okay, where's the word? Go that way.
Ron, I can read you a bedtime story now. You're not up there. Thank you. Good job. I know Taylor on that day.
I have ribbon. There we go. Okay. We're going to move on to our next presentation, and it's called Champion for Murrieta. During the City Council workshop, the Council reached a consensus on proceeding with the recognition of community members through Champions for Murrieta. Champions for Murrieta is an individual who works and lives in the city of Murrieta, who is always behind the scenes volunteering, or a worker bee that is helping to make life better for everyone in Murrieta. A person who does not know how to say no, but they love giving back and helping others. This champion would be considered an unsung hero that has made significant and measurable contributions to preserve and/or improve our community without being in the limelight. The first recipient of this award, in my opinion, is a true champion for Murrieta. Saying no when there is a need is simply not in this person's vocabulary. Stepping up with a yes, how can I help, asking for nothing in return, is how extraordinary this person is, giving back time after time, event after event. Now, I will admit, as your mayor, I have spun a huge web of untruths to get this person here tonight. And it is my honor to announce the very first champion for Murrieta, and the honor goes to Mrs. Sandy Word. Please come forward. Is this on? It is. Hi, I know I didn't lie. I didn't lie. I stretched the truth a whole lot. A lot of truth, a lot of stretching going on out here. And I want to read you about this amazing unsung hero. The city of Murrieta is proud to designate Sandy Word as a champion for Murrieta. Her work throughout the Murrieta community has impacted the lives of individuals, families, nonprofits, and businesses alike. Stop crying. Sandy Word has held countless fundraisers benefiting families in need, nonprofits, schools, and athletic programs through her Murrieta small business. In addition, she continually sponsors nonprofits through various community events. Sandy Word, apart from being a Murrieta business owner, is part of numerous nonprofit boards and committees that focus on improving and positively impacting the community, such as the Murrieta Wildomar Chamber of Commerce, Professional Women's Roundtable, and Milvet. Sandy Word has earned recognition by numerous organizations, including the high honor of receiving the prestigious presidential acknowledgement, yet her humility drives her to continue serving selflessly. Through Sandy Word's efforts and continual participation in organizations, her impact has been felt throughout the community. Sandy Word's kind heart and generous spirit serve as a positive role model for the community and embodies the nature of the champion for Murrieta. We can find meaning and reward by serving some higher purpose than ourselves, a shining purpose, the illumination of 1,000 points of lights. We all have something to give. George H.W. Bush. It is my honor to present the very first champion for Murrieta to Sandy Word.
Are you expecting me to say a few words? Yes, I was. I'm usually not without words, but this is just amazing. I am so honored and proud to be part of this community. This community is amazing. We get so much support from the city, and Cindy kind of read it in there. I don't do the things I do to get recognition. I do it because that's what's in my heart. And I enjoy helping people, and I enjoy helping the community. So this is truly an honor. Thank you all so much for your vote of confidence, and I am very proud to serve the city of Murrieta. Yeah.
And then could I get your family to come down so we can take a picture? Sure. Scott, that would be you. Yeah, that would be you. Scott next to you. Come on, Scott.
One, two, three. Perfect.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sandy, congratulations. Thank you.
Isn't it fun to catch somebody by surprise? We're going to move on now to city business. The approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? If not, may I have a motion? I do. I have a motion by Councilmember DeForest and a second by Councilmember Holliday. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask the city manager to please give us administrative update.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. I have two updates for you this evening. First, we're going to have our Fire Chief, Bernie Malloy, talk to you a little bit about the Murrieta Fire and Rescue 2024 Annual Report, and he'll be followed by Christina Davies, our Public Information Officer, who will give you a community update.
I don't have the clicker, so I'll point for clicking. Does that work?
Yeah.
All right, good evening, Mayor Warren, Council. I'm happy this evening to present the hot off the presses, 10 a.m. this morning, 2024 Murrieta Annual Report. This, as I present to you every year, is a quick highlight of this 35-page document of everything that your Murrieta Fire Department does for the city every year. For those in the audience that don't have a copy, if you scan that QR code, you can work along with us if you want to see it. And then we have the QR code again at the end. So I'm going to give a count of 5.
I just scanned it. It works. There you go.
All right, I'm leaving it there until I see the phones drop. No phones. All right, we're going to move on.
There it is.
I want to start by talking about our call volume for this past year. We passed a milestone this year. Our city fire department ran over 12,000 calls, 12,285 calls. This is a 5.65% increase in call volume from year to year. So we generally see about 5% growth every single year. So passing this 12,000 was a big number for us. This is 12,000 times that a resident of our city picked up their phone and called 911 because they had a problem they couldn't solve and they needed our fire department to come out. And this is 12,285 times that a door went up on the fire station and our firefighters went out to answer that call in the city. This number is already going to be higher next year. We're anticipating our January, when we compare our January to January numbers, which is what we have so far, was up 18.73% over last January. So our call volume is steadily increasing. And we did have the flu this January that was pretty rough, but we're already seeing some of this population increase coming to our city. So when we break those numbers down, over 8,000 of those were medical related. We had 179 fires this year, and we'll break those down a little bit further. And then you can see the other incidents up there. And then 495 times we went to fire alarms in the city. These are fire alarms, if anyone asks, that did not result in fire. If it resulted in fire, it would have ended up in the 8,000. So this would be possibly a false alarm or smoke in the structure. But that is the accumulation of those greater than 12,000 calls that we ran. If you look at what were our busiest call units this year, it was our 2 medic patrols. So Medic Patrol 2, right in the middle of the city, busiest unit, over 3,000 responses. Medic Patrol 3 had over 2,000 responses. We should switch those, right? So it makes it a little easier on the numbers. What's really important to realize about this, both of those units were not here before Measure T. This is the results of what Measure T is giving us. It gave us the 2 medic patrols and the staffing for those medic patrols. And those over 5,000 medical aids that those medic patrols went on meant that our fire engine was able to stay in the station and be ready to suppress a fire and be a suppression unit if it needed to, while the medic patrols, staffed with 2 firefighter paramedics, responded to these medical emergencies. And this is also, we're able to do this triage dispatching because of something else Measure T is paying for, and that's our emergency medical dispatchers. So every one of these calls, our dispatchers processed and made a determination that we could send just the medic patrol. It did not have to have the engine, which goes to some higher acuity medical aids. So I really wanted to draw emphasis to that. Next, we're going to go to our fire stations. This is a great map of our city. Our GIS did this map for us. I really think they did a fantastic job on that and placed our fire stations. And you can see the call volume by each of our stations down. Obviously, the busiest is in the middle of the city. Station 2 and Station 3 run the lion's share of the calls, and then we're not quite as busy towards the periphery of our city. We're watching this, though, because as we know, the west side with our Station 1 and Station 5 are trending up in the density of the population that's coming here. So I anticipate over the next few years, we're going to start seeing the numbers for those 2 stations increase, and the numbers for the middle of the city also increasing, but not quite as much. I'm proud of our EMS activity because we have we made the investment long ago to put paramedics on our fire engines. We were one of the first in this county to do that, and we have a great story with that. We had 149 cardiac arrests last year, and we had a 24% return of circulation on those. That means that 24% of the patients that we come to when they are no longer alive were dropped off at the hospital with a pulse. And many of those residents are out walking in our city today because of the efforts that our firefighter paramedics put when they came onto scene. So of those 12,000 calls, almost 80% of those are actually medical in nature. Everyone on our department that's on the floor is a paramedic. I maintain my paramedic license, though I probably wouldn't want me working on you because I haven't done it in a little while. But we're really proud of this, and we're really proud of the work that our paramedics do and the equipment that all of you allow them to have to do this job this well. Now we're talking about fire suppression. We have up there the stats on how many fires we went on. One of the things, I actually ran the percentage increase on these fires as well. So we were at 179 total fires this year. That was a 16% increase in fires over the previous year. So this is something we see continuing to trend up. That's one of the reasons we brought forward our fire investigation unit to make sure that if anybody is committing arson in this city, that we are working with PD and we are capturing those arsonists and prosecuting them. But what's great is this fire, with 179 fires, we had a 93% property value save rate. That means that we are getting on scene and suppressing the bulk of these fires before they're able to consume the entire house, the entire structure, wherever the fires were. So those numbers are all calculated out there, and we report our saves and our losses. That's something that not a lot of fire departments do because we really want to show the value of the fire department, and we actually have the amounts there. So we saved $228 million in property because of our fire department, and that's a great statistic that we can bring forward. So that's all I have. The book itself, which you can scan the QR code, there's 35 pages. It highlights everything we do in the fire department. At this point, I will let everyone scan that if you want the copy. If not, it'll be on our website and social media very soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That concludes my updates.
Thank you very much. We are going to...
I'm sorry. No, it doesn't. But that was really good, and so I just got caught up in the crescendo. I'd like to still have Christina Davies, our PIO, come up and tell us about some fun and exciting community updates.
Is that like, but wait, there's more?
But wait, there's more. My report is not as exciting with the stats and information. Our fire department is absolutely amazing, so kudos to Chief. But I just have a little bit of what's going on in Murrieta. So as you know, we do have market nights that's coming up this week. We've been seeing a lot on social media that businesses are really interested in market nights and becoming a vendor. So I will put on our social media accounts that if you are a vendor and interested in market nights, you can visit their website, which is murrietamarketnights.com. And there they have all that information to become a vendor. I think it's really interesting that we have seen this increase. Market nights is popular. I know that it says there's a little bit of rain in the forecast. We will keep an eye on that as well. And then the next event we have coming up is Tour de Murrieta, and that's happening April 5th through 6th. So that is a 2-day race put on by Tour de Murrieta. It's an incredible race. They have a kids race, and that is going to be happening in downtown Murrieta. The races start at 8 a.m. And then next, I just want to remind our residents that we do have a system called Notify Me that people can sign up for and get alerts straight to their phone. And so I just want to remind people that if you are signed up for Notify Me, just to double check to see that if your number is signed up or is also associated with that the email. And so you can visit murrietaca.gov/notify me. And this is a text alert system that we can send to residents when we have updates or any sort of also emergency alerts. And then of course, always stay connected. So murrietaca.gov/connect.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And this time, I'm fairly certain that concludes my updates. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. We're going to move on now. Governing body, commission, and committee board report announcements. We'll be taking the governing body reports and announcements together. Governor body reports is the opportunity for the City Council to give a brief report on conferences, seminars, and commissions, committees, and/or board meetings that they attend. Governing body announcements is the opportunity for the City Council to provide miscellaneous reports and announcements. Each report shall not exceed 5 minutes, and the City Clerk will use a computerized timer. Would you like to start? Councilmember DeForest.
I certainly would. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So on February 20th, Mayor Warren and I met with Congressman Issa as staff to talk about the projects and the needs that were important to the City of Murrieta residents. We had great conversation. We met with Alan and Julia, and they were very excited to hear about our progress and our needs. And we talked about Fire Station 6, Keller Road, and regional training. Also, I chaired the Southwest Riverside Higher Education Coalition meeting in February 25th, and we discussed Mount San Jacinto's College Gala, which will be coming up on April 16th at 6 p.m. at Pechanga. This event will raise funds directly for the coalition, so we're really excited. This will be a big event. We're hoping to raise up to $2 million for the Higher Education Coalition. Also, kind of nice, I want to thank City Manager Justin for working with Southern California Edison. It was nice to get a phone call from them to say that they were going to do after-hour shutoffs instead of during working hour shutoffs. So thanks to our amazing city manager for talking with Edison and making that happen. And the rest you can read, and if you would like to get a hold of me via email or my cell phone is listed there as well. And thank you all. One thing I'd just like to kind of caveat back on is thank you, Chief, again, for being a fire-safe city. Has saved our family personally $5,000 a year on our insurance. The first time ever since we bought our house in a high fire area in 2016, that has reduced our insurance rate. And that was directly because the information I gave them about fire safe city and wildfire mitigation. So thank you so much to our fire department for actually helping the community with insurance problems, because we know that's a big issue. Also, of the 149 cardiac arrests, my husband was one, and I thank them every day for getting my husband safely transported during a fire on Los Alamos to the hospital, and he's doing great. So thank you very much for allowing me to take a little bit extra time for kudos for our fire and to our amazing city manager. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Stone.
Madam Mayor, I got caught up in the Microsoft nationwide downfall. And unfortunately, I still do not have access to my city emails. I was able to get into my personal ones last night, and so therefore I will defer to the next council meeting. Thank you.
I understand completely. Thank you. Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended on behalf of the city the Los Alamos Hills Ad Hoc Committee meeting with Councilmember Lavelle. Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle, sorry. Forgot you had a new title.
Baby Mayor.
Baby Mayor, is that what we're going with? And then yesterday met at the RCA, Regional Conservation Authority, and WRCOG on behalf of Councilmember Stone. Nothing to report out on either one of those. I did enjoy the ribbon cutting at the California Indoor Golf World. One of my favorite parts of that ribbon cutting was watching John Lavelle, his manliness, break a driver.
Oh, no. You didn't.
He did. And it turned out, as we took it to the owner, there was 2 other broken drivers behind his desk. He goes, I guess I have to go driver shopping. Hopefully get some better ones. Always honored to meet the Rotary's Vocational Award recipients at their event. That was very nice. And attended the Rock Your Red event with 2 of my colleagues. Thank you guys for being there. And then today, just before council meeting, 2 of us, Councilmember Stone and I were at the Murrieta Valley Cemetery District Niche Wall dedication ceremony. It was better attended than I had anticipated. And actually, when walking around the existing niche walls, ran across some friends I used to have that are interred there.
Oh.
So it was very nice. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Holliday. Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle.
Thank you. I, just to mention, was at the Los Alamos Hills Ad Hoc Committee with Mr. Holliday. I find it interesting how much history that particular topic has, and he has provided a wealth of knowledge, being his tenure or experience in this area. So it's nice to hear those stories and correspondence before email existed. So that's a continuing discussion, but glad to be there and represent the city. As Mr. Holliday also mentioned, I was also at the ribbon cutting for the clubhouse golf indoor facility. And I did break a club, but it was rattling before I started, and I did hit a record on the virtual course. So 327 yards on a not warmed up body. So fun to do that. Never golfed in my life. And the place, if you guys have like team building events or, you know, just birthday parties, it's a really cool place to have that kind of gathering. And lastly, I attended the Rotary Lunch with most of my colleagues here. And a nice little recognition for someone at Loma Linda Hospital who, she's the coordinator for our CME program, for our residency program. And so we gave, the Rotary gave the award to her based on her efforts to keep physicians in the area. So one of the main points of a residency program is to keep physicians in the area after they graduate their residency. And happy to report back, after 2 years of having a residency program, we've kept about 50% of the residents. So every single doctor matters for especially a growing population. So it's really nice to see her get that award and her efforts recognized in that initiative. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Oh, I'm up. Okay. On February 20th, I did attend the same meeting with Congressman Isa's staff with our council member DeForest. Also, I attended the workshop right after that. Like, I ran to Temecula on the 20th and the 21st for the RCTC. And it was a planning workshop to make sure that what it promises are going to be kept for the I-15 freeway. And promises are going to be kept. We're looking for the money, but promises are going to be kept. On February 24th, I attended the RCTC Budget Implementation Committee meeting. On the 26th, I attended the Riverside County Elected Leaders Collaborative run by our Councilwoman Mayor Stone. Our discussion topic was our trip to Sacramento, what is going to happen in June, to discuss the traffic issues our region is facing, brought on by unfounded state mandates. We're going to have a full presentation at our meeting on March 18th to give you the rundown on the whole collaborative, what has happened over the last year. So that will be very informative. On the 26th, I rushed from there to the T-Now meeting, and ridership on the buses is up 11.9% compared to the same month last year in January, and fiscal year 2025 ridership is up 8.9% compared to fiscal year 2024. Speaking of buses, I have some things that I am working on. One, I am trying to get more buses for inner-city travel. An express bus lane to Mount Santa College. Right now, it takes an hour and a half to get there from Murrieta on the bus. Also looking, trying to get some later morning routes to Metrolink Corota and Paris stations. 5 a.m. is a little early for some people. And there's a micro system that they have in the San Jacinto Hemet area, which would be perfect for travel in our region right here in just our neighboring cities, and we're trying to get that for our region. So I'm working really hard on getting those brought to Murrieta and to help our residents. On the 27th, I went to 2 board meetings, one for the executive board of RTA and one for the commission. And what we learned at that meeting is on the report and will also be on the website, so please read through that. I was very busy going to lots of different things. I too was at the Clubhouse Indoor Golf World, and no, I did not see him swing a club, but it's nothing you want to see either. So I understand how we broke the club. Student of the Month for Murrieta is always a fabulous event. I also attended the 100 Teens Who Care, and it's a spinoff from 100 Women Who Care that pick a nonprofit and give their money to every quarter, and that was very exciting. Was also at the Vocational Service Awards, Coffee with the City. Did you know that we have a U.S. Army Recruiting Center in Murrieta? They've been here 7 years. They're now bigger, stronger, and they're ready for recruits. They're right over in the same shopping center as Floor & Decor, so go visit them. I had a very special evening last Thursday night. I went to the Vista Murrieta High School's performance of the Addams Family. It was the best and the funniest performance I have ever seen done by a high school students. It was fabulous. And I urge all of you to go to the performances to all of our schools. I attended the Rock Your Red Stroke and Awareness event, Heart and Stroke Awareness event. And yesterday, I was one of the readers for Read Across America and a volunteer at Murrieta Elementary School. And you might have noticed that my little granddaughter had red on today. Today was wear your favorite color. So she wore red, so I'm wearing red in honor of her. That concludes my report. Thank you. Oops, there we go. Now we're going to move on to public comments, non-agendized. Any person may address the governing bodies on any subject pertaining to city business. Normally, no action may be considered or taken by the governing bodies on any matter not listed on the agenda. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Madam City Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Amy Edgeworth.
Hi, Amy. Welcome back to the podium.
I get to talk this time.
Yes, you do.
I let Jen do the talking before. All right. Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members, city staff, and my fellow lovers of history and community. Murrieta has always been about family. That's why we moved here in the spring of 1998, back when it was still a quiet, affordable town where neighbors waved and somehow everyone felt connected. When we moved, we didn't just bring our belongings. We brought my 80-year-old grandpa. We took care of him, and he took care of us. But Alzheimer's is cruel. Some days he'd search for names he couldn't find. Memories would be cut off mid-sentence like a book missing half its pages. Every day he'd ask who I was, how we were related, and most importantly, why I was wearing plaid pants, because according to him, they were ridiculous. And then there were nights I'd come home and there he'd be, standing around the corner, his hat tilted low, a pack tied over his shoulder. I'd say, "Grandpa, what are you doing?" He'd look at me and say, "I'm waiting for the train. I have to go home to meet my family." At the time, it wasn't funny. It was heartbreaking. But now I see the thread, the way the past ties into the present, the way stories connect us, and how the things we create today honor the people who came before us. Because this train and this project, it may be called Pearl, but everyone who knows me knows it's really about him, my grandpa. And here's the irony. This whole thing is inspired by my grandpa. It was actually my grandma who was the artist in our family. When I was little, I'd visit my mom's childhood home in Garden Grove, where my grandma had her art studio filled with paints and brushes and canvases. She's the one who first taught me that art isn't something you create. It's something that heals, that connects, and tells a story. So in a way, this project is for both of them. The train for my grandpa, the arts for my grandma. And when you put those two things together, history and creativity, you get something truly special. And I'll be honest, this project hasn't been easy. It's taken time, effort, and yes, a fair number of public comments at this very podium. But progress is happening. The Murrieta Train Project has a new direction, a new space, and a clear vision. And it turns out in this town, history has a way of finding you. Just like how years after moving in, I met the neighbor across the street, and through a love of genealogy, we discovered we were actually family. Because that's Murrieta, a place where our roots run deep even when we don't know it yet. And that's what this project is about, preserving those connections, keeping our history alive, and creating something meaningful for future generations. But we need your help. We are asking the city to waive development fees so we can put every dollar into making this project a reality. The county supervisor's office has suggested that it's within the city's ability to waive or reduce development fees for nonprofits by writing off the staff hours reviewing the permit plans. We've submitted our pre-application review Monday, and we have a bill of $1,043 before that will be reviewed. We'd love if that would be waived or reduced or in some way put towards what we expect to be a $10,000 development fee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Monica Mestis.
Hello, Council. I tonight would just like to remind you that we have no pool in this city. You're probably very well aware of that, but we used to have a pool. It was a nice pool, decent pool. I set about today trying to find out what the status of that situation is, and I spoke with Aquatic Supervisor Victor Patino, who's very nice, on the phone, answered the phone, which is number one. He said he's presented the council with everything that he can think to give you, and that it's sort of in your court now, where it ranks in priority on dollars that you have available to spend. Well, I meant to read something from my phone. So then I went to a website and I looked at, I finally found a small paragraph about the pool, and it said that it was shut down August of 2023. I don't know why exactly. Before it closed, before the season closed, and before I could finish using my punch card, I'd like to note, and that it was contradictory, this paragraph, because it said you're right on, you know, redevelopment, planning, gonna figure out how to fix this, and then at the same time it says, it said, public speaking is not my favorite thing. It said that it'll be a while before you can find funding sources, basically. So that's 17 months now. I'm wondering how the funding sources are coming along. And would like to remind you that Temecula has a very lovely pool. I don't know how they did it, but maybe they could tell you how they did it, where to find these funding sources, because we live in the desert. We have a population well over 100,000 people. There are lots of people in the pool at LA Fitness. I, for one, would like to be outside in a pool. Pool is my happy place. And I don't know how much funding you need, and there are lots of pools for your money, obviously. But I'm here to say, please build me a pool. And just a note, there's a little town in Utah called Kanab. They have 5,000 people and a beautiful pool. Don't know. Call them, see how they did it. So right now, summertime pool activities will be held at Murrieta Vista High School. And that's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think if you would go out into the foyer, our CSD director, Brian Ambrose, would like to tell you what's going on.
Fantastic.
See?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming down and talking to us. Madam City Clerk?
Kevin Kuhn.
Hi, Kevin. Hey. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. Just gonna hold this up here if I can. There we go. Yeah, that'll work. Just want to make sure I'm coming back to see all of you. I know I was here 2 meetings ago and hadn't had these signs yet. You've probably seen them already. I got to hand them out to the library commissioners recently, and then for those of you, Cindy and Ron, that were at the Coffee with the City event, which I thought went really, really well. Thank you for including me in that. We got to hand out a few more of these. So just wanted to officially present these to you, and I'll hand them off to the city clerk here in a minute. Just wanted to remind everyone, we've got a GoFundMe campaign going on right now. We could use more donations there to ensure that we're getting the library facility that we all deserve here in Murrieta. We did, as I mentioned at the Coffee with the City address, we did get a $25,000 donation, so we certainly are appreciative of that donation, but we could certainly use a ton more. I also want to just remind everybody that we get donations through an organization called Benevity, which works with workplaces to help those that are working to make donations to causes that they care about, and we've been getting some funding from there. So if anyone's listening live or recording, please look into that with your workplace. But yeah, we really appreciate the support that the city has given to this project. Melvin and Brian Ambrose and Brian Crawford and Kristen Crane. It was really great to be at that event, to see all of the engagement with, our city, those from the city about this important project. But yeah, I'll go ahead and hand these off. We'll look forward to sharing an update here soon. I do really want to just say really quickly, there's a lot more people that can become involved in this project across the city. So I really want to challenge the residents of Murrieta to become involved. The GoFundMe, you can give 20, 10, 15, whatever amount is doable for you, and we'd love to see a lot more participation. So thank you.
Kevin, how would residents get a hold of those signs so they can put them in their yards?
Yeah, I think the easiest way, you could jump on Instagram or even just connect with the library. We have signs of the library that we can give out. We only have so many of them, but we'd love to get them in more visible areas for sure.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That continues public comments, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine and may be enacted by one motion and vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless specific items are removed from the consent calendar for a separate motion. Are there any requests from the City Council to pull any consent calendar item for discussion or abstention from voting? Seeing none. Madam City Clerk, are there any members of the public requesting to speak on a consent calendar item?
Seeing none, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I'd like to have a motion and a second, please. Not working.
Technical.
I have a motion by Councilmember Holliday and a second by Mayor Pro Tem John Lavelle. No discussion? Please vote.
No, it wasn't, huh?
Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you. We're going to move on to public hearings, and that'll be item number, I believe that is item number 13. Is that correct? Financing for Viscar Terrace Apartments, Vista Murrieta Affordable Housing Project. Welcome, staff.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Carl Steele, City Planner here with Development Services. We're here tonight to conduct a public hearing for the financing for the Viscar Apartments. So here's the project site for reference on Vista Murrieta, south of Los Alamos, west of Hancock, and west of the I-215. The city's Development Services Department approved a project on the site consistent with the multifamily objective design standards in June of 2024. It has 172 affordable units, and it's located within our transit-oriented development area, and it's on a housing site. This is the site plan showing the approved development with improvements around the property and the landscaping. You can see 5 buildings, 1 large one in the middle and 4 surrounding. The project grading and building plans are currently in process with our public works and building staff. So the project applicant submitted an application to finance the project with the California Municipal Finance Authority. The CMFA is a joint powers authority that is formed with over 300 municipalities in California. They assist local governments, nonprofit organizations, and businesses with the issuance of both taxable and tax-exempt bonds that are aimed at improving the standard of living in California. CMFA assisted with the funding for the Manamos Apartments, a project 2 years ago, you may recall, and that project is now nearly completely constructed. So the project tonight is proposed to use Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act, TEFRA, which is part of the federal IRS code as the method of tax-exempt financing. The applicant asked CMFA to provide $70 million, up to $70 million in bond financing for the project. It's important to note the debt to be issued by CMFA will be the sole responsibility of the borrower. The city will have no financial or legal obligations or responsibilities with regard to repayment of the debt. All financing documents carry disclaimers that the loan is not an obligation of the city. The city will also bear no costs in issuance of the proposed debt, and the borrower is responsible for repayment pursuant to the agreement. So pursuant to TEFRA, it requires that a public hearing be held by the governing body of the jurisdiction, which is why we're here tonight, where the project's located for the financing in the city, and the governing body approved the proposed financing for CMFA pursuant to our joint powers agreement. So it's recommended that the City Council conduct a public hearing under TEFRA pursuant to the IRS code and adopt a resolution approving and authorizing and directing the execution of the tax-exempt facility bonds by CMFA. Such adoption is solely for the purposes of satisfying the requirements of TEFRA, the IRS code, and California Government Code. And I just add a point of clarification. We had a TEFRA item 2 weeks ago, and there was a question about what type of financing this type of financing is with TEFRA. Staff did some more research on that. So it's considered non-recourse financing, and that means that the lender can only seize collateral if the borrower defaults, so only seizing collateral. And I had some discussions with the staff of CSCDA, which is the other agency that was issuing the bonds 2 weeks ago. And they said less than 1% of projects have ever defaulted. And they've issued $75 billion of bonds in the last 40 years. So it's a pretty rare occurrence for them to default. But anyway, I'll wrap up there. Thank you. This completes our presentation.
Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. Now we'll take council member questions. Oh, look who's in the queue. Mr. Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say thank you to Mr. Steele for doing the research and clarifying the answers on those questions I've asked previously. I appreciated the insight. He went above and beyond by also getting the default rate for those bonds, which is very beneficial to those that are concerned. Although you stated clearly in your proposal that the city is not at risk for any of this, it's even stated in the documents the city is not an obligator under these bonds. So I appreciate all that background work. Great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Holliday. Mayor Pro Tem LaBelle.
Thank you. In the recent fire happenings and conversations that are going on, does this project, are they going to be undergrounding the power lines that go along the Los Alamos sector of this section?
So if we go back, they're tasked with undergrounding in front of their project on Vista Murrieta. So if you look at the red sort of outline there and the white line is Vista Murrieta, they're tasked with undergrounding the utilities in front of their project.
The white line?
It's hard to see, sorry. I don't have the streets well on there. If you go to the brown above where it says MF3 and the white line that's coming down to the west of the brown is Vista Murrieta, coming down to the project site that's outlined in red. So they're tasked with doing their frontage along Vista Murrieta. The frontage behind that on Sky Park has already been done by the Bridges project, which is nearing completion.
What about, is there anything in the middle, that middle road, the Catalina, it looks like?
They won't be doing anything on other than just making sure that the road lines up. But they aren't doing further improvements off-site. The only improvements they're conditioned to underground is along Vista Murrieta.
Okay, and then would that complete all of the lines that are above ground on Vista Murrieta Road?
Only in front of their project. They're not further down the street. Further down the street will remain as is.
Okay, so we have everything underground up to Los Alamos and then up to that red triangle point of the project here.
I believe if everything above that is undergrounded. Yeah.
And then my last question is, we're approving the financing mechanism, not the project, correct? Because this project won't come back to us.
Correct. The project's already been approved utilizing the city's objective design standards, which were approved by the City Council 2 years ago. Yeah. This was approved ministerially pursuant to our new process with the objective standards.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Seeing none, I'm going to open the public hearing. City Clerk, is there any public testimony?
Seeing none.
Thank you. Council will bring it back to you for deliberation. Does anybody have any further discussions or questions? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing, and I'm going to call for a motion and a second. I have a motion by Councilmember Holliday and a second by Mayor Warren. I'm going to bring it back one more time. Any discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote.
Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the report. We appreciate it. We're going to move on to discussion item number 14, fiscal year 2024-25 second quarter financial status report. Here comes our dream team. Welcome.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, and members of the public. I'm Javier Carcamo, Finance Director, and with me tonight is Jennifer Terry, our Finance Manager, and we are pleased to present you the fiscal year 24-25 mid-year budget update, which provides an update on the budget at midpoint of the current fiscal year. Before we begin, I'd like to thank everyone involved in this budget update, including our department directors and their staff. Special thanks to our city manager and assistant city manager for their guidance and support. I also like to recognize the staff from our finance department, especially Jennifer Terry, who did the heavy lifting of this report tonight. So certainly reviewing and analyzing thousands of budget line items across 11 departments is no small task. And we're also doing that in parallel with working with or developing the budget for the next 2 years. So certainly busy time for us. So thank you everyone for the dedications and their support. With that, here's our agenda for tonight. The format and presentation of this report are consistent with previous budget updates. We are currently in the second year of the 2-year budget cycle. We will provide a brief summary of prior actions approved by City Council during the fiscal year 2024-25. Jennifer will highlight the proposed budget amendments at the citywide level, including General Fund and Measure T Fund. We will present the projected available fund balance considering the proposed budget amendments, along with the reminder of the city's reserve balances. We will summarize the proposed changes to the schedule of authorized positions. We will outline our finance work plan for the remaining quarterly budget updates, as well as for the upcoming biannual budget development process. And lastly, we will present staff recommendation for tonight's budget update report. During the City Council meetings on August 20th, Finance proposed revenue adjustment for the second year of the biannual budget in an effort to balance the operating budget. These amendments or adjustments were based on historical collections, primarily for the revenue, very specifically looking at the prior year actuals, making some small adjustment based on a increase in some of the revenues. Other proposed adjustments and amendments includes personnel costs to account for increases in employees' salaries and benefits associated with approved labor agreements, 10% citywide reductions in operations and maintenance budgets, 10% overtime reduction, deferral of new positions, and the establishment of procedures to review and approve all vacancies before recruitment. Additional revenue adjustments and personnel budget reductions were proposed during the November 19th meeting. At this point, I will turn it over to Jennifer to highlight the most notable proposed budget amendments for the mid-year.
Thank you, Javier. I'll start with citywide, then transition into general fund and Measure T. So at citywide level, this includes all funds, over 100 funds that we manage. Of the $186 million revenue budget, we, at the mid-year mark, December 31st, we have received 31% of our revenues, or $58 million. The overall percentage is low because special taxes and vehicle license fee, property tax in lieu, have not been collected yet. These revenues are normally not collected until early February, so you'll see those items with actual amounts for the third quarter budget update. We did, however, evaluate revenues that we have received and are proposing the following adjustments. $3.3 million in total revenue we're proposing to increase, which is $3.2 million in interest earnings based on year-to-date actuals. This adjustment brings the citywide interest earnings budget to $8.7 million. This adjustment anticipates future decreases in the interest rates by the Federal Reserve. However, we will continue to monitor our interest earnings over the next few months and will propose an increase in the budget, in this budget category, as part of the third quarter budget update if necessary. We're also proposing a decrease of $1.1 million in developer impact fees. This is due to the change that the state made, which allows the DIF payment to be calculated, to be collected at occupancy as opposed to being paid at permit issuance. We anticipate that eventually we'll be collecting a full year, but this first year, year and a half, we anticipate lower revenues in DIF. We're increasing $407,000 in miscellaneous revenues based on year-to-date actuals, and I'll expand more on that later. Increasing $537,000 in intergovernmental revenues based on final allocations from the state. Additionally, the final allocations of gas tax came in $125,000 higher, so we're proposing to true up that account. These adjustments bring the total citywide revenue budget to $189,750,014. On the expenditure side of the $179 million budget, we've expended 49%, or approximately $87.6 million. We are proposing to reduce approximately $1 million in expenditures. And this is a combination of increases and decreases. We're proposing a decrease of $2 million and increases of $1 million. The reasons for the budget change include a few missed PO rollovers from the December request, adjustments based on year-to-date actuals, and additional amounts being added for vacancy factors to account for unfilled positions. And you'll see this again, that unfilled or vacancy factor more in detail in General Fund and Measure T. These proposed adjustments bring the amended budget to $178,793,130. For the general fund, of the $72 million budget, we've collected 35%, or $25.4 million has been received to date, which is in line with the citywide percentage of 32%. The county has set dates for when property taxes and special assessments that are levied on the property tax bills are remitted to the city. So we are anticipating receiving the second line, the taxes, VLF, property tax. That one will be reflected next budget update. Other general fund revenues are collected on a delay. For example, sales tax and franchise tax. Sales tax is on a 2-month delay. Franchise tax is on a quarter, 3-month delay. So you'll see those two lines lower than some of the others. We evaluated the general fund revenue and are proposing to increase other miscellaneous revenue by $1.6 million, which is an increase of $407,000 in miscellaneous revenues for electric vehicle charging stations, credit card rebates, restitution payments, miscellaneous intergov fees, and an unanticipated lawsuit settlement. We're also increasing intergovernmental revenues by $67,000 for reimbursements from the city of Wildemar on their share of the homelessness outreach project. And finally, we're increasing interest earnings by $1.1 million. These adjustments bring the revenue budget to $73,679,515. For the general fund expenditures, Our budget is $77.7 million. We've expended 43%, or $33.5 million. We are proposing to reduce approximately $105,000 in total expenditures, which is a combination of $828,000 in budget decreases and $723,000 in increases. We have a few missed POs, as I mentioned before, totaling $286,000, adjustments based on year-to-date actuals, and $390,000 for Phase 2 of the general plan update. That was an item on earlier on the agenda. And personnel reductions of $807,000. This is primarily due to the vacancy factor accounting for positions that haven't been filled yet. These proposed adjustments bring the amended budget to $77,635,117. Moving on to Measure T. The only source of revenue for Measure T is sales tax. The amount collected through December 31st includes receipts from July through October, which is why we've only collected 32% of the amended budget. On the expenditure side of our $26.1 million budget, we have expended 52%, or approximately $13.6 million. We are proposing budget reductions of $291,000, which is a combination of $711,000 in budget decreases for vacancy factor, and increases of $420,544. We have a PO rollover request of a missed PO rollover request of $4,500, a reinstatement of a budgetary savings submitted in error of $15,000, and the balance is for transfers out, operating transfers out to fire, CSD, and library. This brings the Measure T amended budget to $25,815,512. A brief summary on our sales tax. As I mentioned on the last slide, the sales tax amounts referenced in the agenda report include collections through October. However, this slide does include November and December. Those 2 months were received in January and February respectively. So we wanted to give you the latest and greatest, so showing you what we have to date. Bradley Burns collections through December are at 49.66% of the amended budget, and Measure T is at 49.48%. So they're right on that 50% mark. When we compare fiscal year 25 receipts to the same period for fiscal year 24, we are a smidge less. Bradley Burns is 0.2% less, and Measure T is 1.2% less. So very small amounts. We're hoping that the remainder of the months pick up and will overshadow fiscal year 24. The schedule of authorized positions, we have a few adjustments for this, for our schedule. Staff regularly brings the schedule of authorized position to council when staffing adjustments are necessary to enhance operational efficiencies. Staff is proposing to adjust the schedule of authorized positions as part of tonight's action. It is recommended that the Special Events Recreation Coordinator position be reclassified as a Senior Recreation Coordinator so the incumbent can work more independently and at a higher level, allowing for greater decision-making. This will offset the workload of our Recreation Supervisor, Laura, who coordinates all of the city's special events. There is also an addition of a half of a full-time equivalent, 0.5, limited term part-time public safety dispatcher. That's a mouthful. To increase operational efficiency and effectiveness. This brings the total citywide full-time equivalent count to 469.09. Moving on to unassigned fund balance. Did you have something? Oh, unassigned fund balances are available funds that can be used or spent in the current or future fiscal years. Unassigned fund balances increase or decrease based on operating surpluses or deficits, contributions to or use of reserves, or changes in fund balance categories, which include amounts for non-spendable, which include prepaid, inventory, loans, and advances to other funds, assigned for program revenues, restricted, future debt service payments, and committed, operating and sustainability reserves, as well as designations for CIP projects and year-end encumbrances that need to be rolled over. The best time to report unassigned fund balance is after the completion of the audit and financial statements, because at that point, everything has been reconciled. All other instances where ending unassigned fund balances are provided, as I will be providing to you tonight, are estimates. So they can change. The estimated unassigned fund balance for general fund is $27.6 million, and Measure T is $17.3 million. The operating transfers for fire, CSD, and library were updated, so their estimated ending balances balanced to zero. With the proposed changes to the operating budget, the general fund's estimated unassigned fund balance improved by $470,000, and Measure T improved $210,000 compared to our last update. Additional factors that are built into this are any other item that has been brought to council as a separate item. So those are already reflected here, aside from tonight, because you haven't made that decision yet. The City Council adopted the fund balance and reserve policy. Its purpose is to ensure strong fiscal management to guide the city's financial planning and continuing to provide services for its residents. The city established operating reserves for the general fund, Measure T, Community Services District Fund, and the library to mitigate financial and service delivery risks due to unexpected revenue shortfalls or unanticipated critical expenditures. The purpose of these reserves is to provide budgetary stability and not to serve as an alternative funding source for new programs or ongoing operational expenditures. In accordance with the policy, the city will maintain the minimum operating reserve balance of 25% of the annual operating expenditures in each of the aforementioned funds, but strive to reach the 30% goal for the operating reserves. The operating reserves are currently at $36.6 million. We plan, as part of the biannual budget workshop, to discuss the operating reserve balances and the funding percentages that you would like to have based on available fund balances. The sustainability reserves consist of funds set aside for economic contingency, information technology, fleet replacement, facility repairs, pension rate stabilization, and continuing operations. The total sustainability reserves are $44 million. There are no set required balances for the last 5 reserves I mentioned, but it is recommended that they be funded at levels adequate to fund the city's schedules for equipment replacement, facility repairs, and future pension obligations. Economic contingency reserves shall be maintained in the general fund and Measure T to address financial impacts resulting from changes in the economic environment. If revenues are insufficient to meet the normal operating requirements of essential services in times of economic turndown, and there are no available unassigned fund balances, funds contained in the economic contingency reserve may be used if approved by City Council action. According to the fund balance and reserve policy, this reserve will maintain a 5%, excuse me, a 5% of the general fund operating expenditures. Currently, this reserve has approximately 9% between general fund and Measure T. Pension and other post-employment benefit reserves set aside under this reserve in the general fund and Measure T shall be used to mitigate costs associated with future pensions and other post-employment benefits. The Finance Department will provide future budget updates in May for fiscal year 24-25 third quarter budget update. And then the year-end or the fourth quarter budget update will be presented to you in December. As Javier mentioned, we are currently underway with the biannual budget development process for fiscal years 25-26 and 26-27. A budget workshop is planned for May, and then adoption of the proposed budget will be in June. The capital improvement budget development for 25-26 through 29-30 is running parallel to the biannual budget with a May workshop. The CIP adoption process also requires Planning Commission approval to ensure general plan conformity of each new project, which will be held after the May budget workshop. And then the final approved proposed adoption will be hopefully on the same night as the biannual budget in June. Tonight's recommended actions are to accept the report, adjust the fiscal year 24-25 operating budget as defined in the agenda report and in attachment 2, and approve the updated schedule of authorized positions. This concludes our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. Very well presented to us. I would like to tell you we have no questions, but we have questions. So we're going to start off with Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Great presentation. Could you go back to the slide of the sustainability reserves, please? Thank you. I'm familiar with the fleet replacement, the 2 fleet replacement reserves, facility repairs, those kind of things. We've talked about those offline before about we need to have, like, what in my world, what's called a sinking fund. Basically, you're setting aside money all the time for the big repairs that are going to be needed down the road. The economic contingency obviously is more like a rainy day fund.
Yes.
Than something that we anticipate to need someday. I don't know that it necessarily belongs in the same category. That's just a personal preference on my thought. What is the continuing operations reserves for?
Do you want me to answer it?
Go ahead.
Those are for budgeted items that we anticipate during the budget development process, but we don't know an exact number, so we set money aside. And that was for the MOUs.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. So that's for the MOUs for future labor agreements, which we didn't do last time. That's something new we're implementing now, correct?
When this budget, biannual budget was adopted, we were in the negotiation process for public safety.
Right.
So that those funds were set aside at that time. We did increase it a little bit at the end of last fiscal year, but that's what's the intent.
And the one that I don't see on here is road repairs. are we setting aside money for road repairs, or is that part of the budget ongoing? Because I know we have the slurry seal program that we have on a 4-year rotation that we do 100% of the city across 4 years, or 25% of the city every year. But we also have major arterial road repairs, like Antelope Road is on the schedule. I know Murrieta Hot Springs is being widened as part of a CIP project. Are those projects solely in CIP?
Yes.
And so we don't build up money for those estimated repairs. In other words, so Murrieta Hot Springs is going to get widened and resurfaced and be brand new, but we know it has a useful life. Are we setting aside money in the CIP category for those future repairs?
If I can add really quick, so with the infrastructure, primarily with road repairs and maintenance, most of the funding, if not all of the funding, comes from Measure A and gas tax. And the Measure A has a 5-year plan which identifies all those future projects. And at that time, as part of the process to commit those funds with the county, those projects are approved, and those funds are committed at that point in time. And so for the most part, those road improvements have sufficient funds through those funding sources.
For the ongoing maintenance of the major arterials?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Holly. Councilmember DeForest.
Thank you. Thank you again for the great presentation and the clarity. I appreciate that. When I was looking, or when you were reviewing the Measure T on operation and maintenance, it looks like maybe the operation and maintenance in that fund is costing a little bit more because there's a $15,000 added into that. Are we seeing that that's costing us more, or could you elaborate on that a little bit? Or
That $15,000 was accidentally reduced as part of the 10% budget reductions. And so we're replacing it because it was done in error.
All right, thank you. And it looks like that we're at least holding steady with our sales tax revenue. Is that how you would describe it as well?
Yes.
Okay. And then another question, just maybe for clarity. The sustainability reserve estimate balance at 43 million, is it the same, or is it part of the unassigned fund balance at 36 million, or is it completely separate?
The unassigned fund balance, the operating reserves, and the sustainability reserves are all separate amounts.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that for me. I was like, wait a minute. Okay. So thank you so much. Thanks again for the presentation.
Thank you. I do have a couple questions I want to ask you. The first one is holiday tax, or the revenue from taxes from the holiday spending, has that been received?
Yes, that was
Okay, so that was part of the December part that you put.
Yes.
And also, I know that the second installment is due April 10th on property taxes, and I know we don't get a lot from that, but how long does it take the county to send our money to us after receiving the final installments on the property taxes?
We receive end of May, beginning of June.
Okay.
And then we'll receive another installment in July, early August for any late payers.
Okay, so that money would then be reflected in your next report?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. That's all I wanted to know. Any further other questions from our council? Hearing none, I'm going to now, let's see, what am I going to do? We're going to go to public comments. Do we have any public comments, Madam City Clerk?
Seeing none, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the council for any further discussions. If not, I have a motion from Councilmember DeForest and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle. Any further discussions? Seeing none, please cast your vote.
Motion carries unanimously 5-0.
Thank you so very much for a job well done. Appreciate it. On to our item number 15, our last item for our public is a second reading on ordinance 613-25 regarding the city's participation in the Western Riverside County Transportation Uniform Mitigation Fee TEMP program. Welcome. Hi, David.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Staff, may we please have your report?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So the item before you this evening is a recommendation from staff to conduct the second reading and adopt ordinance number 613-25. I don't have a presentation for you on the second reading. However, I do have the presentation from 2 weeks ago when we introduced the ordinance for first reading. I'm happy to review that with you again if you'd like. Otherwise, I would turn it back to the council for your decision.
Thank you. Council members, do we have any questions? Councilmember Stone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, David. I had some more questions I'd like to propose from our presentation from Mr. Gray, if that's okay. I'd like to have some more clarity, and also in layman terms, my questions are going to be directed to more of an explanation to our guests in the audience and also our residents. With regards to the money from TEMP that we give WRCOG, can you tell me how much money on the average per year we allocate towards TEMP, please?
Are you talking from a budgeting standpoint, or how much money we receive?
How much money that we dedicate to the TEMP program, the City of Murrieta's development?
So the way that the city receives TEMP funding is that, I don't know if you recall, Mr. Gray indicated that as development occurs, that is subject to the TEMP fee. The TEMP, excuse me, the TEMP fee, a portion of that goes back to the local jurisdiction. So it really depends on the amount of development that's happening, within the city. So, we're experiencing a lot of growth right now. The affordable housing projects, those are actually exempt from having to pay TEMP fees. So we have, approximately 2,000 multifamily units, market rate, that have paid the TEMP fee, and a little bit of commercial. So I don't have the actual number. I don't know if Mr. Mailing knows offhand what he's been budgeting for TEMP projects as they've been applied to our capital improvement programs.
So a percentage of that goes back to us. And,
correct.
And the majority of it goes to WRCOG?
So according to the WRCOG administrative manual, there's roughly about a 45% split between the WRCOG, which uses that money for regional transportation improvement projects outside of Murrieta, and then, or may include Murrieta as well, for all I know. There's a 45% that we receive, as well as which Mr. Mailing primarily uses, and there's some other percentages that go to like the RCA administration and minor administrative needs.
So we receive 45%, WRCOG receives 45%. That money is spent regionally. So with regards to the $12 million that Mr. Gray said, because I proposed the question, does that go back into the zone, or does that go back to the City of Murrieta? And he said it goes back to the City of Murrieta. So my next question to you is, how long has that money been put into the TEMP account that is at $12 million? How long has it taken us to get to 12 million? How many years?
So I will defer to Mr. Mailing.
But let's go back to the first question. And the first question was, how much money do we give? How much of the 45% goes to WRCOG?
I can talk strictly on the amount of money that we've paid to WRCOG as part of the TEMP program. We've been in the TEMP program since probably 2002 or 3, I think it was established. The city, based on its development, has contributed $51 million to the TEMP program.
So $51 million.
Correct. We've received.
So that's, okay, so approximately 21 years.
And we've received $31 million in TEMP funding for our different interchange projects over the years. We have another approximately $12 million allocated for both Keller and the Hot Springs widening project and the Whitewood.
And that's our money that's allocated.
That's what's allocated within the zone.
That's not the regional money.
No, it's zone money, so it's.
Okay,
it's
so
not-
we're receiving
it's
12
not our
million out of the $51 million. We're getting 12 million back.
We've collected $51 million. It goes into the zone for Southwest Zone that we're amongst the cities. We've received $31 million over the course of time for different projects. We have another 12 million allocated for Keller, Hot Springs Road, and Whitewood. And our maximum share for Keller Road is approximately $19 million. So we've collected $51 million. We've pretty much allocated $51 million plus or minus for the projects we've done and the projects we have upcoming between Keller, the Hot Springs widening, and Whitewood. So in my eyes, it's almost like it's going to be a wash. The amount of money that we've collected and given to WRCOG is giving back to the city in order to do infrastructure projects.
Okay, so just so I understand again, we've allocated $51 million to the TEMP program. And over the last 21 years, we've received $31 million back. In addition, we have 12 million that is allocated towards Keller Road. And then how many millions towards Murrieta Hot Springs?
There's 2.7 going to Murrieta Hot Springs Road widening, along with another 3 million from RCTC that we received.
Okay.
All this money is collected through the TUMP program, and is like David said, 45% of it goes to WRCOG, 45% of it goes to RCTC for infrastructure projects.
So 45% goes to RCTC and 45% goes to WRCOG. So the 12 million that he is saying that is our money, that is part of the 51 million that comes back to us?
I don't recall what the $12 million that Chris Gray indicated in our last meeting, where that actually was. He said that we had coming back towards us. David, do you recall?
Well, the one reference that we provided in the staff report, and I think it's in the packet tonight, identified the TUMP funds that the cities received and what the funds were spent on, specific projects, and then there was a $13 million figure, I believe, for money that was allocated to projects that are not yet built.
Okay. Can you explain about Measure A? Did the people vote for Measure A? How's that facilitated? What is the correlation between the TUMP fees and the Measure A funding? Because he had commented that if we voted no against the TUMP fees, the raise of the TUMP fees, that number one, we would lose our money. It would cost the city $500,000 a year, and it would affect our Measure A. Can you explain in layman terms how that all plays out for the residents?
You got that one? I'm sure.
Well, so I just recalling what Mr. Gray had indicated. So as part of that Measure A, he has to provide a certification to the RCTC, I believe, that the city is in good standing with the TUMP program. So it was his interpretation that the city would be in jeopardy of losing that funding if the city withdrew from the TUMP program, and that he also believed that the city would be liable for funding whatever its portion or share was to. And I apologize, I don't recall exactly why the city would be liable for repaying that $500,000, but he expressed it as a liability to the city if we withdrew.
And how much money approximately do we receive yearly from Measure A? And explain what is Measure A, what is that money used for?
Measure A is, I believe, a half-cent sales tax that the voters approved. It goes, I think we receive, I don't know, Javier just had the number, it's approximately $2.25 million a year for Measure A. Or 3.6. That's a better number, but it's the sales tax from gas tax that we receive. That's going directly towards asphalt overlay projects, maintenance projects.
Okay, thank you so much for the clarification on all of my questions. As you know, I voted no against the TUMP increase fees. And I wish DOGE would come to Riverside County, actually the state of California. My issue is that WRCOG, a percentage of the temp fee goes to their administration, correct? And right now, I know that they have about $12 million in their reserves. They just increased our dues, which affected the city of Murrieta, which I voted no on, almost close to $12,000 a year. They're spending, Councilmember Holliday, $8 million on a building right now, correct? With 3 years left on their current lease that they're liable for as well, correct? And so for these reasons, I still feel that even though this is a second reading, and thank you so much for answering all my questions, I'm hoping that the residents that are viewing this council meeting have clarity of how this all works. So with that, again, I have to look out for the people. And I realize that there is a cost to looking out for the people, which would financially hurt us if this did not pass. But I still have to stay true to fighting for what I believe is right. And I believe that the cost of living has increased substantially over the last 4 years, and somebody has to stand up and fight. And so with that, thank you so much for answering all my questions. And that concludes my questions and comments, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Stone. Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To piggyback on some of Councilmember Stone's questions and comments, I do want to clarify that the building that WRCOG is purchasing is ultimately going to save them money over time. Their lease is extravagant. They're going to sublease that out through the end of the term, which saves them money. And the building they're purchasing is a multi-tenant building, which once you factor in the exorbitant rate they were leasing at is going to be break even within 7 years. So ultimately that saves taxpayers money. Although if WRCOG didn't exist, it would save them a ton more. So if RCTC gets 45% and WRCOG gets 45%, and WRCOG takes a 5% administration, is it 4 or 5%?
I believe you said 4%.
4%. Yeah. Where's the other 6%?
I can tell you, I have it up in front of me.
We need the Jeopardy song right now.
You know, I did have it up. If you want to give me a minute, I will circle back to it. And, you know, if you have another question you wanted to ask, but I will find that for you.
Well, I can chat about the Measure A connection. So there's a clause in the Measure A legislation or vote that was passed that said agencies had to belong to a regional group. WRCOG has interpreted that to mean belonging to TUMF. I don't know that we agree with that interpretation. But I also don't know that it's something we want to fall on our sword for at the moment. As Mr. Mailing said, we've collected about $51 million and we've gotten about $51 million back in benefit. Actually, we're ahead because they took a 4% fee. We shouldn't get back every dollar that was put into it. So if they took a 4% fee, we should be at 96% at best. So we're actually probably a little bit ahead of the game. Especially considering the future allocations we have for Keller Road, which you said would be about another $7 million.
It's a maximum share of 19 million for Keller. They've already allocated 9, so it's additional 10 million.
10 million, yeah.
Maximum share for Keller interchange.
So we're actually, by the time we get Keller and Murrieta Hot Springs Road widening done, we're actually ahead of the game versus if we collected the money ourselves and spent it, with Murrieta projects, we would be almost in the same position. We're actually a little better off by doing it through the program. But the advantage of the program is that traffic's a regional issue. People don't, and then Mr. Gray, who I don't always agree with his interpretation of the data, people don't drive to the edge of the city and stop. They continue circulating throughout Southwest Riverside County. And to be part of a regional program that improves all the roads in Southwest Riverside County. The one that comes to mind at the moment is Bundy Canyon. If Bundy Canyon was improved to the 3 lanes they anticipated to be all the way from the 15 to the 215, how much traffic would that alleviate off of Clinton Keith? Quite a bit, because I know a lot of people. I have a project I built on Wildemar Trail, and when I travel over to it, I take Bundy Canyon Road. A lot of people that are coming from a similar area I am go down Clinton Keith, and I said, why do you go down Clinton Keith? He says, oh, it's a better road. It's quicker. It may be, depending on the time of day and who you happen to be in front of you. It may be, because most of Bundy Canyon's only 1-lane road, Scott Road on the east side. And so I get the regional perspective and that we need to participate in the regional effort to make traffic better for the entire region, because it affects every resident in the city of Murrieta. So I would not be in favor of backing out of the TUMF program. Although I think all government, as I agree with Councilmember Stone, all government needs to take a look at their inefficiencies, because there's probably no shortage of inefficiencies at the county level, at the WRCOG level, and others. So we certainly could use some efficiency, some, as she put it, Doge County.
But also remember, Councilmember Holliday, while, yes, we've paid $51 million into this program, and it could be a wash, a 2,700 square foot track home in the city of Murrieta will be close to $1 million. Can you imagine you today, well, you're in the process of building your own home, and I'm sure that your budget has increased substantially.
I don't have a budget, it's blown.
Yeah. But again, while I appreciate all the efforts that this program has given the city of Murrieta, and back to even our region, because what happens in Lake Elsinore and Temecula affect Murrieta. It's very, very sad. My children could never, ever come back to California and spend close to $1 million on a home.
That's not the fault of TUMF. That's the fault of cost of construction.
But I understand that, but we also raised the temp fees that will substantially increase a cost of a home as well. All the fees that have been approved from this council in the last 4 years has substantially increased, not necessarily the sale of the home, but the Mello-Roos, the bonds, so on and so forth, HOA, interest rate. It'll be so sad that these people will not be able to qualify for a tract home in the city of Murrieta.
I agree. Do we have that number, Mr. Chantarangsu?
I do, so thank you for your patience. So according to, again, the WRCOG Administrative Manual, there is a roughly 3% allocation to regional transit improvements. The allocation to regionally significant transportation improvements received by the WRCOG is 45.7%. That's allocated to the RCTC. The local funding is also the same, 45.7%. There is an allocation to mitigate TUMF construction projects. So in this specific case, it sounds like they've designated approximately 1.5% to the RCA. So if you add up all those numbers, it's 96%. The remaining 4% is the WRCOG.
Is WRCOG. Thank you for that exercise and making it balanced so I can sleep tonight.
I was rounding, just so you know.
Yes, I understand.
Thank you for that. We want him to sleep too.
But to my fellow council members, like I said, it's irritating, the cost of living increases that we've experienced. And as Councilmember Stone pointed out, I'm experiencing it firsthand with the amount of the cost of concrete. When I laid a quarter-mile driveway in my house in La Cresta from my house down to the barn, labor, materials, everything all in was $13,500. The concrete alone for my footing for one house was $13,000. That's how much concrete construction costs have gone up in a very short amount of time.
And just think if it was prevailing wages, sir.
Well, thankfully, I'm not a governmental entity. As you know, I'm in favor of prevailing wage going away. But we do need regional transportation projects. I think we do need a regional entity that has the input from all the cities. And in spite of the fact that cost of living has gone up and the cost of building these roads have gone up, which is why the TUMP fee has gone up, I still think we need to support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The only thing I would add to it is I wouldn't have a problem asking WRCOG for a financial report at the end of every fiscal year, a real report saying where's their money going, to who, and what's being spent. A financial report is something that members should be allowed to have and ask for. It might be something we would like to request.
It is presented every year to the board.
Yeah, but do we get a copy of that?
Yeah.
You bring that to us?
Well, Councilmember Stone is the representative now, so she can get a copy of that.
So you bring that to us? Perfect. Are there any more questions from council? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for, Madam City Clerk, are there any public comments?
Seeing none.
I'll bring it back to the council one last time. Any further discussions? Seeing none, I have a first by Councilmember DeForest and a second by Councilmember Holliday. Any further discussion? If not, please cast your vote.
Motion carries 4-1 with Councilmember Stone dissenting.
Thank you again, staff, for coming back up and answering all our questions. We appreciate it. Madam City Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any council member who voted on the prevailing side of the original motion may move a reconsideration to consider new information or correct inadvertent errors on a non-public hearing item at the same or the next meeting. At this time, are there any requests from the City Council for reconsideration? Seeing none, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Now, council members request to add or withdraw items from future agendas. Now is the time for council members to request or add withdraw items to future agendas. There will be no discussion or on the request. A brief explanation of the request may be given. The merit of the item being requested may not be discussed or debated. Now, are there any requests from my colleagues? Seeing none? At this time, with no further business, we are now adjourned.